Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Public Works meeting for September 25th, 2023. We'll begin with our land acknowledgement, especially fitting this week. Niagara Region and Grimsby are situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in the Niagara region. The Regional Municipality of Niagara and the town of Grimsby stands with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. First agenda item is disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest? Member Rady?
Yes, in discussion with the town clerk, Bonnie, we suggest that I remove myself from 8.1, which is the encroachment agreement for 3 East. It's a non-pecuniary interest, but is my neighbor, and it could be misconstrued.
Thank you. Any other disclosures of interest? Seeing none, move on to the approval of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda, please? Member Smink, seconded by Councillor Kostanji. Resolved that the September 25th, 2023 Public Works agenda be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Next, we have the receipt of previous minutes. Can I please get a mover and seconder to receive the previous minutes? Member Murphy and Councillor Howe. Resolved that the August 28th, 2023 Public Works Committee minutes be received. All in favor? That's carried. We have no delegations or consent reports. Next, we have a discussion report, which is 8.1. So, Member Rady, do you want to, how do you want to do it? Do you want to leave the room? Do you want to go sit in the audience? Do you want to just stay there and be quiet? Okay.
Believe me, I know the background on this one.
Are you sure you're able to be quiet? I know I'd have trouble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We have a discussion report for 3 East Street and Grimsby Beach. Can I get a mover and a seconder to get the items on the floor for discussion, please? Member, Councillor Kostanji, seconded by Councillor DeVoli. All right, who's doing this one? Spencer. Welcome, Spencer.
Sorry, that one. Hello. Hello. Thanks, Spencer, with the town. 3 East is an encroachment agreement for some existing structures that are backing onto an unopened road allowance. It was brought forward through the building department, so part of their review, they have to ensure that there's no encroachments within the right-of-way. If there are encroachments within the right-of-way, an encroachment agreement is required. If Public Works is in support of it, then they would be able to continue with that building permit. We go through a review to see if we can support it. Common items would be, are they going to impact future infrastructure or town use of that right-of-way or what they're encroaching on? Are they existing or new? That's a pretty important one as well. And then also in this area, there happens to be multiple other encroachments in this same unopened road allowance. So through our review, we are able to support the encroachment agreement for these items. So staff is recommending that the committee would support this, and then also the costs associated with this would be borne to the applicant. So there's some legal costs associated with the encroachment agreement, and so we ask that that be borne to the applicant. Survey is done to clearly mark out those encroachments to ensure that they're accurately shown for our review, and then also in the future. And obviously, there's details within the encroachment agreement if you wish to go through it, but at any time the town is able to request that those encroachments be removed if we do need to utilize that right away. So that's also a very important fact of the encroachment agreement. That's really everything I have. Brandon, I don't know if you wanted to add anything?
Yeah, excuse me. The only thing I'd add to is just, again, I think Spencer mentioned it, one thing we do keep in mind with encroachments, if it's an existing structure, specifically the foundation, normally we would grant it. If they're rebuilding or building a new foundation, then that's where we would say, well, you need to remove that encroachment. So in this case, it was an existing encroachment. This is, again, another reason why we supported it.
Any questions for Spencer or Brandon? So related to you mentioned that if it was a rebuild, so if somebody was to take it down to just the basement or to the foundation and rebuild on top of that, would we still request that the encroachment be removed?
Sorry, no. Not normally. Again, it's reviewed on a case-by-case basis, but normally if the foundation is existing and it's already encroaching, then we would permit it.
Okay. And the image that you showed makes it look like pretty much every house in the neighborhood is encroaching, so, which I think we all are kind of familiar with the issues that have happened over the years back then when people were building cottages on places that were created for tents, and that's what happens. But any other questions for staff? No? Okay. I have a resolution. Resolved that report DPW 2314 encroachment agreement for 3 East Street in Grimsby Beach dated September 25th, 2023 be received, and that the Public Works be authorized to establish an encroachment agreement with the property owner at 3 East Street to recognize the existing encroachment excuse me, as follows. The house foundation, a portion of the dwelling, a portion of the stone retaining wall, an air conditioning unit, a gas meter, a wooden fence, a portion of a deck, a concrete pad, and that all associated costs for the encroachment agreement be paid for by the property owner, and that the mayor and town clerk be authorized to execute the encroachment agreement. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we have 9.1, Memo Transportation Master Plan. We have a memo from the Public Works Department on the Transportation Master Plan update. Is there any discussion on this? Did you want to give a brief overview, Brandon?
Sure, if you don't mind. Yeah, thanks. So just the main purpose of the memo is just to provide council with some additional information about the Transportation Master Plan process. So we've included a one-page information sheet, if you want to call it, just summarizes the different components of the project. Gives you an overview. It doesn't get into all the details, but we just wanted to give you some more understanding of what's going to be coming. In the info sheet, we've outlined the timelines for the implementation of the TMP. We're committed to get the project underway out to market in October, anticipating 8 to 12 months for us to implement, puts us in a position kind of late 2024 to have an action plan moving into the later years. So again, just the TMP process just generally is meant to set goals and objectives and long-term plans for the town's transportation network. And it's meant to engage the public and council in setting these goals and objectives, which will ultimately be setting the vision for the future of our road system. And I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Member Spink?
Right. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just curious what you're anticipating the public consultation portion of the TMP to look like.
That's a good question. Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I think we've done similar studies in the past. I think there's a number of options that we can certainly look at, whether it's, I think there'd be some in-person engagement as well as we have, what's it called? The Grimsby, Let's Talk Grimsby is a good tool that we have, that we've used for previous studies. We've also looked at things like, particularly in the Downtown Reimagined, you know, if there's an opportunity to get out there, engage with the public in, you know, markets and stuff like that, where we set up a booth and have people come in and provide their input there would be another means. So again, I think this is a really important project, and important that we get the community's engagement and involvement in it and get their input. So we'll do whatever we can to try to engage them. And again, I think we're hoping that we expect that we're going to get a good consultant that is going to help us through this process and bring their professionalism and expertise to the table and help us through that as well.
Any other questions for Mr. Warman? Okay, I'm hoping that we'll see an opportunity for people to come in, brainstorm what's important to them, get feedback from the public as much as possible in various different ways. So, the downtown is one way, having those booths set up, but also in the past, for the official plan for the zoning bylaws, we've had, kind of roundtable discussions and things like that. So every opportunity we can to bring people in and hear as many voices as possible. Sometimes we miss ideas when it's just staff or just council or just members of the committee. So it's always good to hear from more people. And also, this is that opportunity that we have to look at issues that people are perceived issues all over town and tackle them, right? So instead of dealing with things on a one-by-one basis, give people an opportunity to get their voice out there and then deal with it on the big scope, the big picture, and that way it'll keep us from having to deal with one at a time all the time. I hope is one of the benefits of a transportation master plan. Any other comments? So I need a mover and a seconder to receive the memo, please. Councillor Howe and Councillor Devoli. Resolved that the transportation master plan update be received for information. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Is there any other business pertaining to the committee? Member Spink?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm just hoping that staff could give us an update on the Downtown Reimagined project, where you think the timeline's going to be, when we think the RFP for the design portion, which I think is the next step, will be occurring.
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. So we're actually, the next month or so, we're reaching kind of the head on a number of the components of the project. So we anticipate that we'll be coming to both Public Works Committee and Council with the results of the parking study in the next month or so, as well as we're setting up a workshop to engage the public again on the Downtown Reimagined concepts, the plan that we're putting together, which identifies the treatments and some of the concepts that we have. So that'll be coming in the next month or so as well. In terms of the detailed design, I think we're trying to get ahead a bit of getting that RFP out for the detailed design ahead of the completion of the earlier components, but we're trying to be mindful of making sure that we have the right information out to those consultants so they have a full understanding. So whether we communicate that in draft form, and I'm not sure, but we expect to have that out within the November-ish, before the end of the year for sure, for detailed design. Idea there is, I've said to the team, I want to, if we can, spend as much time as we can in 2024 with that detailed design process. Again, a big component of this is going to be engaging with the stakeholders, primarily the businesses downtown. There's going to be a big impact to them, so we want to make sure that we hear their feedback and work with them on their concerns through the process. So the more time we can spend on that through 2024, I think the better.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? I'm looking forward to seeing the parking study. I think that's been a long time coming and something that people have expressed concerns about repeatedly. So that's a good place to start for sure. And that's something that will help us to even outside of the Downtown Reimagined project, it's something we would have needed to do anyway, so that's important. Any other questions or new business? All right, well, that was pretty easy. We should get one of those buttons. Our next meeting is Public Works, is October 30th, 2023 at 6:30. Meeting's adjourned. That's got to be a record.